everybody. It's the Honorable Dr. Reverend Professor Ambassador Stewart Ellen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow, just plain young Janet Moria Diane.
Well, we know what you really
Janet Diane Moria
are.
Swerdlow.
You're the princess of the Cherokee Nation.
Yeah, that's it.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for middle of December 2017. And my goodness, for the middle of December, there's been an awful lot of snow so far.
It's been awful?
Yes, because I'm the one shoveling it. And you watch me from the window with your hot coffee. And you, oh, hi, I'll come out in a moment.
No, I don't either. I don't watch you. I don't stand there and drink my coffee.
That's right.
And
you
I
see
don't
me out
wave
there
at you.
in
That's
sub-zero temperature with snow up to my nose, shoveling in the darkness, and you just have a fun time in here. That's okay, fine.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Anyway, speaking of people who don't care about things, North Korea appears to be moving ahead with its nuclear program, and satellite images, although we don't know whose satellite, but we imagine it's from the United States, recently detected hectic activity at the North Korean nuclear test site called Ponggyeori. You think that's how you say it?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds like something you get at takeout. Anyway, the experts, who are these experts, say that after North Korea's last nuclear test, minor tremors were detected near Mount Mantap. Now, let me tell you something. Some of these minor tremors were over 6 points on the Richter scale. They were not minor. And so they say that now the North Koreans are building new tunnels at the site. And according to, I love this, it's called 38 North. It's a U.S.-based think tank. So they have like a tank and they stuff people and say, think, think.
It's funny how I never know anybody that's employed by these kind of places.
Sometimes I stick my head in the fish tank and I think, is that a think tank?
That's better than other places you could be sticking it.
So you've seen me? Oh, never
think
mind.
you need
Never
to
mind.
go
Never
on
mind.
to
Never
your
mind. Never mind. Never mind.
News.
Anyway, they say there's fresh activity at this called the West Portal of the site, indicating that the site may be undergoing an expansion. Meanwhile, the North Portal, where the previous 5 tests were conducted, appears to have been abandoned because it's collapsing into the earth. And they say that the North Koreans are expanding the site for potential for future nuclear testing. And we should also realize that some of these explosions have caused major earthquakes and possible triggering of a huge volcano in North Korea. However, insiders say that Kim Jong-un really wants to visit the U.S. and he loves Frank Sinatra's music. How bad could he be? Really? Anyway, moving on from North Korea to a very popular topic, which is artificial intelligence. And according to this report, artificial intelligent robots could soon gain consciousness and rebel against humans to eliminate them. Well, I don't have a problem with that one. Many scientists believe that AI robots could soon complete dangerous missions in combat or in space, or also lead to killer robots. I thought we had those already, actually.
I'm sure we do.
Yeah. And they're saying that a machine that is aware of itself and its surroundings could take in and process massive amounts of data in real time. In addition to driving people around, it might be able to cook, clean, do laundry, and even keep humans company when other people aren't nearby. I don't have a problem with that either. Do you? I'd like them to shovel my freaking driveway. Anyway, then they go out all kinds of weather, we don't have to wear a coat or anything. And it said that particularly advanced set of machines could replace humans at literally all jobs. And I think that's already happened in some places. Would you like this? A life of no work and only play? Would you like that?
My work is play.
Okay, now we'll talk to another person. A conscious machine might be a person under law and be liable if its actions hurt someone or if something goes wrong. Well,
I already told you about what happened to Sophie in Saudi Arabia. She's got the first world citizenship, so that's
she
just
wants
a
a baby.
She does?
That's what it said.
Oh, I didn't read that part.
Mm-hmm. And what about if these machines rebel against humans and want to eliminate us altogether? I don't have a problem with that either. Anyway, here's the next thing about AI. There's a warning that it isn't just for military systems or infrastructure that could possess a threat, but sex robots as well.
Those could be a threat?
Yes. According to this report in the Daily Star, there's the potential for hackers to target robots designed for intimacy and could put the users at risk. Hackers can hack into a robot or robotic device and have full control of the connections, arms, legs, and other attached tools. And in some cases, knives or wielding devices. These robots can be up to 200 pounds and very strong. And once hacked, they could absolutely be used to perform physical actions for an advantageous scenario or to cause damage or kill somebody. So imagine, they're having intimate relations with this robot and it just chokes them or chops their head off or something.
Or other body parts.
Correct. Which there was a story about that with a regular person doing that. Now let's go to Israel. This happened actually a long time ago, but it's connected to North Korea. There was a rabbi named Levi Sadia Nachmani who prophesied the war between the U.S. and North Korea that would spiral into a nuclear apocalypse, and he said this in 1994. He said that the Hermit Kingdom was a doomsday forecast, and at the time that he said it, there were no nuclear weapons there, and the only threat was to South Korea. He also warned, he said, quote, "Do you know what will happen? God forbid, Korea." He said, not Syria, not Iran, not Iraq, not Gaddafi. He said that Korea will arrive here. The Kabbalist soothsayer made these prophecies in a video taped on December 12th, 1994. So it was 23 years ago. At the time, North Korea was ruled by Kim Jong-il, or as I like to call him, Kim Jong-mentally ill, who was the father of the current Kim Jong-un. Now, at the time, North Korea had signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, vowing not to develop nukes, and that was in 1985. But it carried out its first nuclear test in 2006, more than a decade after the rabbi's prediction. The rabbi said, "No, that this is worse than the Holocaust." The rabbi died 1 month later after the prophecy, but he had already correctly predicted the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, 2 conflicts between Israel and several Arab nations, as well as the First Iraq War. So he kind of knew what he was doing.
As long as the quote is correct.
But here's the interesting part, people. He named Korea as the source of Armageddon for a bizarre reason, and that's the name of the South Korean capital, Seoul. And so I looked that up, and in Hebrew, Shaul is the name of King Saul, and it means asked for or prayed for. He was the first king of Israel. So we have to decide why Saul or Shaul is this Armageddon thing. Now let's continue with Israel. Now this is very, very interesting in light of what's going on. An interfaith group from Bahrain is paying an unprecedented public visit to Israel this week. And that's causing a big problem in some Arab nations. There are 25 participants who include Sunni and Shiite Muslims, as well as Buddhists, Christians, Hindus, and Sikhs, who flew to Israel as the guests of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which is a Jewish human rights group. And they sat at a restaurant overlooking Jerusalem's old city. They did the candlelight ceremony marking the first night of the Jewish holiday, Hanukkah. Now, this was a 3-day trip, which they said was non-political, and it nonetheless is a possible test case for other Gulf Arab nations to see what would happen if they moved towards recognizing Israel. Israel and Bahrain do not have diplomatic relations, but Bahrain's King Hamad is rumored to be weighing an end to his country's boycott of Israel, as the countries have covert ties anyway. Bahrain and other Sunni Arab nations see themselves as sharing regional interests with Israel when confronting Shiite power Iran. And Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, said that many of the Arab nations now recognize that Israel is not their enemy, but their indispensable ally. He also acknowledged, and this is also very significant, that Israel won't be able to sign a peace treaty with the Arabs without a deal on the Palestinians, but also implied that ties have already been established and have room to grow. Now, Bahrain is a tiny island nation off the east coast of Saudi Arabia, ruled by a Sunni king, but with a majority Shiite population. 70% of the population is Muslim, and the remainder is other religions. And here's the very interesting part, because Bahrain is home to a small Jewish community, but none of them went on the trip. Now, despite these protests over Trump's status or statements on Jerusalem being the capital of Israel, moderate and Arab nations already have been closer ties to Israel. And I really think that if Saudi Arabia allowed this to happen, then they're actually okay with Jerusalem being the capital of Israel. And they want Israel to destroy Hamas and Hezbollah.
All right. Mm-hmm. So I have a small Jewish story about Trump. Yeah. Because Trump tied in his recognition of Jerusalem to the Hanukkah celebration at the White House, which has never been happened before.
Mm-hmm. Did he know what it was?
Hanukkah?
Yeah.
He gave told a story.
It's huge, people. It's huge.
He told a story about the origins of Hanukkah. He knew
it.
He had his grandchildren light the 2 menorahs, and then he credited the Jewish people for their faith.
And were the menorahs shaped like little Arab people, and he just lit them?
Didn't say. And then, of course, you probably saw that speech that he did about Jerusalem where supposedly he slurred his words. I looked at that and I didn't think he slurred it that bad. But
well, he is on medication.
Well, regardless, now they're saying that he will undergo the traditional physical examination at Walter Reed National Military Center in early 2018, which all presidents undergo. So, but they did reference the slurring of speech, but they called that ridiculous, so we'll see. And then former President Barack Obama warned against staying complacent in the face of rising nativism, citing the rise of Hitler as an example of what can happen if democracy is not defended.
Well, he would know, wouldn't he?
He said, quote, "We have to tend to this garden of democracy or else things could fall apart quickly. That's what happened in Germany in the 1930s, which despite the democracy of the Weimar Republic and centuries of high-level cultural and scientific achievements, Adolf Hitler rose to dominate."
Yeah, well, he should look at why that happened and not just give a blanket statement like that.
Well, maybe it's happening because he's part of the program, obviously. Because as I always remind you, Obama and Trump are cousins, like they all are.
They look just so much alike, really.
And then speaking of the things that I tell you about Trump, how he has his daughter all the time, the daughter has her children parading all over the world speaking Mandarin Chinese. Now this story says that billionaires and royals are rushing to teach their kids Mandarin. Of course, this has been going on for years in those cultural circles. And when Prince George goes to his preschool, he will be learning Mandarin Chinese, and they say he may already be learning Mandarin Chinese.
What a copycat.
Yeah. It says that Chinese is the language with the most native speakers in the world, with 1.2 billion, and of those 1 billion speak Mandarin.
Right. I speak Mandarin.
I know. You won your high school Mandarin award or something?
I won the award, yes I did.
Yeah. The sheer size alone means the language will continue to be important for business in the future. So not about people communicating, but business. So.
Yeah, and very simple. The first thing you know is, you go out now. You go.
Well, I think this is one of the most important stories that I have And this is about the huge object passing Earth,
Oh, yes.
which could be an alien spacecraft from
It
another
is.
part of galaxy,
It
say
is.
scientists
I
this
agree.
time. It says the bizarre cigar-shaped entity was previously thought to be an interstellar asteroid, which came from another part of the
Okay,
galaxy.
how would they confuse an asteroid which is round with a cigar-shaped object?
Well, that's what they're claiming, that a natural object would not be shaped like
right,
this.
Exactly.
Plus, they said it's only 1/10 as wide as a normal object, I guess, which is highly unusual for a typical space rock. They claim it's speeding through space at 196,000 miles per hour, suggesting that it is not gravitationally bound to the sun.
So it's under some kind of control.
That's what they're claiming. They're saying that it was spotted in October by the University of Hawaii astronomers,
Right.
and they call it Oumuamua,
You watch your language, potty mouth.
and that means something in here. I've got
Yeah, it means,
scout or
let's fool all the white people.
scout or messenger. And it says that researchers involved in SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, are preparing to turn a powerful dish telescope toward this object.
So why isn't this like front page news?
So apparently, the SETI project is, they have a project within SETI called Breakthrough Listen, which I'd never heard of it, and they claim that's a $100 million project.
Yeah.
And the founder of that is a Russian.
Of course, only the best.
Said that researchers working on long-distance space transportation have previously suggested that a cigar or needle shape is the most likely architecture for an interstellar spacecraft, since this would minimalize friction and damage from interstellar gas and dust.
Actually, a disc is.
Well, they're claiming a cigar shape. And we have seen pictures of those cigar-shaped things. While a natural origin is more likely, there currently is no consensus on what that origin might have been, and Breakthrough Listen is well positioned to explore the possibility that this could be an artifact. It says the object is currently about 2 astronomical units, never heard of that, called AU, from Earth, or twice the distance between the Earth and the Sun.
So when is it going to get here?
It didn't say in this thing, but I thought it was interesting.
We should have like a little welcome party.
Yeah, but anyway, I thought that was one of the most interesting articles, because we've been telling you for a long time.
Maybe it's my peeps.
Maybe.
They've come back for me.
And then you may have been reading about all these doctors that have been found dead. And apparently now the 81st one, it was found dead this past week. He was found in his bathroom on Park Avenue in New York by his 11-year-old daughter with a knife in his torso.
Yeah, they said that was a suicide.
They claim it was suicide because he was distressed because he was being sued by former ex-Giants player.
Who can stick a knife in them, especially a doctor knowing?
Apparently it says, listen to this, he missed his heart, and so they're saying if he's a world expert surgeon, and he intended to take his own life, he would not have missed his heart.
Yeah, somebody freaking killed him.
And then they claim it can't be stress because he had insurance, which would have covered the loss even if he had won. So anyway, of course, they're not really saying why he's dead, but...
Well, they said that there's a football player that claimed he destroyed his career.
Yeah, that's what
that's
what I refer to here. The ex-Giant attorneys said. And then this was interesting about wildfires, because we've been talking about everything going on in California, earthquakes, and is there volcanic lava in that area?
Oh, yeah.
So what Governor Brown warned about was that this is a new reality that they're going to have to face.
No, it's not.
He said it's more intense, it's more widespread. We're about ready to have firefighting at Christmas. This is odd, unusual, blah, blah. This was what he said. Fires, floods, and earthquakes don't go away. He's indicating that these are the things that are attributing to fire. But the thing is, if underground, if there's lava flow and it's hot and the heat is coming up, that's what's starting these fires.
It's like putting California's on an oven that's now cooking it.
My feeling. And then, of course, I've been telling you about certain terms to listen for. So speaking of North Korea and Japan.
Yeah.
Now, boatloads of dead people. I've been telling you about the phrase dead people and ghosts. So we have dead people, ghost ships apparently are coming from North Korea and washing up in Japan. At first it says recently, but then it goes on to say, apparently this is common.
Yes.
You knew that, okay.
It's takeout, it's North Korean takeout.
Yeah, 80 ships drifted ashore in Japan in 2013, 65 in 2014, 45 in 2015, 66 in 2016. So, and then it said they're found with skulls, decaying corpses, And this is interesting because it talks over and over about the ghost ships are barometer for the state of living conditions in North Korea, which are grim and desperate. But somebody else says that North Korea has a booming economy, seafood's a luxury, and that's why they're out at sea. But then why are they dead? But it goes
Maybe
on.
They were dead before they.
But sometimes then they also say that they're alive. So why are they calling them ghost ships? None of it makes any sense.
How could they be alive?
Well, it says that the Japanese citizens remain haunted, is that word, by the spate of kidnappings that occurred along Japan's west coast in the 70s and 80s.
I've written about it.
So when 8 living men claimed to be North Korean fishermen showed up on a coastal city 2 weeks ago, then the newspapers were asking if these were North Korean spies.
Who just show up on the beach and go, here we are, we're spies, hi.
Yeah, it
That's
says North Korea has, public anxieties and anger toward North Korea has increased because of all their supposed testing. So sympathy for the ghost ship crews has been limited. So why are they calling these ghost ship crews? First of all, they're saying they're dead and they're saying they're alive.
Japan occupied and attacked Korea for centuries, and the Koreans hate them. So let's remember that.
Okay. So, but why are they calling these ghost ships? Because they're saying they're finding them with decaying bodies and skulls, and they're saying they're alive.
Because this is fake news, as they say.
It must be, but they're trying to get this ghost idea out to you. And then there is a mysterious condition which is showing up in emergency rooms here in the U.S. called scromatine. This is weed smokers across the U.S. that they claim are using too much of this. So it causes them to vomit and scream.
How can you vomit and scream at the same time?
I don't know. It says,
you know, like, how do you do that?
That's
a talent.
One woman said, I've cried out for my mom who's been dead for 20 years, mentally not realizing she can't come to me. The doctors are claiming that this could stem from the body being oversaturated by cannabinoids affecting the hypothalamus.
That's a new word.
So it's called CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis.
You watch your language.
Hyperemesis syndrome, CHS. So anyway, again, there you have it. And now this was interesting. A new hate crime is being born.
Another one?
In the UK.
What is that particular?
They are saying that they're calling it a scheme. In the new scheme, wolf whistling and cat calling may be listed under hate crimes.
Why? Isn't it like actually the opposite?
Well, no, women don't really like
that. They do that because they like the woman, not hate her?
Yes, but they're saying that women don't like it, so therefore men aren't stopping it. So, but I guess it could be maybe go the other way as well.
They should thank them for being interested.
It said if you are targeted due to race, sexual orientation, disability, or something else like being goth, that's considered a hate crime. And so they're trying to decide whether they want that to go through the whole UK. So I thought that was interesting. And then Harper's Bazaar magazine. Remember I told you that menstrual blood, that's going to be part of New World religion and all of that, that's a thing. So Harper's Bazaar magazine had 4 weeks within a month about women's periods. So every week or every month, every week they had all these different articles. So one is, I've never had a period, but I'm still a woman. This is a trans woman shares her experience grappling with menstruation and motherhood. Then we had one, to bleed or not to bleed, a man and his period. About
a man had a period?
About a transgender man, about getting and losing his period. Had to teach men about period paraphernalia, like things like tampons and whatnot. And then there's a woman who
one in their head.
Actually wrote a book called Periods Gone Public, Taking a Stand for Menstrual Equity. This is a one-woman crusade. Now, we haven't heard that word for a while, but it's in the news, our crusades reverting to what's old. And so she's talking about how we need laws and policies that ensure menstrual products are safe and affordable for those who need them. And she goes back to saying that this is a popular topic because of Trump during his campaign said blood coming out of her wherever in reference to Megyn Kelly. And then how she tied this in, I don't know, but apparently they want this out in the news. Vice President Mike Pence's 2016 bill as governor of Indiana requiring funerals for fetuses. And then she wants menstruation stripped of its reproductive purpose and framed as a bodily function like a nosebleed.
Well, tough what she wants. It's a reproductive frickin' function.
I know, and she says that the activism surrounding menstruation excludes transgender and gender non-conforming people who menstruate.
Okay, they don't menstruate if they weren't born with female parts.
So all of this, again, is more bizarro.
Period.
And then you've heard of the singer Pink. She says her daughter, named Willow, wants to marry an African woman.
Right.
And Pink thinks that's great.
Okay.
The little
First
girl
of all,
is
her name
6.
is freaking Pink, okay? Whose name is Pink?
Right. And then Willow.
That says a lot.
Right. And then the daughter's name is Willow.
Right.
And the daughter's only 6 years old. And
right, because she knows everything about life and what she wants to do.
already.
That makes sense,
So,
right?
so Pink thinks
Brilliant.
that's great. And that because her family is a label-less household.
No, let me put it, brainless household.
And she thinks it's great that schools and colleges are beginning to understand the idea of gender fluidity. And she thought it was great when she saw a kindergarten bathroom with on the door a sign that said gender neutral. Now, when we were in kindergarten, there was a door. We always had a bathroom.
Boys or girls?
No, ours didn't say anything. We just knew it was the bathroom. We didn't need
had
a sign.
You must have been in a poor neighborhood.
Man,
we had 2
you had
bathrooms.
2? You had a boy and a girl?
Boys and girls.
Well,
and you know what?
What?
We all knew what we were.
What?
Wow!
But the thing is, we
and
didn't.
we were so stupid back then. We didn't know about gender fluidity and then men could have periods and blah, blah, blah.
You could get pregnant, too.
Really?
With a uterus transplant,
And we were
I
all
guess.
fine.
Yeah. And then there's a transgender father tells of his and his boyfriend's joy at having a baby, and they'll let the baby choose its own gender.
Of course.
So they're not
That's the little infant in the crib. What are you, a boy or a girl?
They're going to let it decide for itself. They're not telling people if it's a boy and a girl. I don't know what they name it, but maybe it's a they. But they don't. I don't know what the name is of this child. But it's going to cause a lot of problems with people.
God help that child.
So. And I had talked about this. There's a president of the American College of Pediatricians, Michelle Cretella. She actually has done a lot of writing saying that this is child abuse.
Yes.
So the articles.
It's just abuse.
The articles are lengthy, but my 2 articles are linked, and I've also put them on my Facebook page. And she writes very, very good, well thought out stories, saying like a long time ago.
Finally.
She gave the example of a little boy who thought he was a girl. The long story short went way back when they found out that he had a sister born with some disabilities, and so the parents he thought more attention now to the girl. So he wanted to be a girl, so he thought that would make the parents would love him more. But when they worked it out and they found out what it was, and they corrected the family situation, all of a sudden he was okay being a boy. But now, and she was talking about like if you walked in and you say I want to lose my arm because I identify as an amputee, they will say you're delusional. But if I walked in and said, "Hey, I'm a man today. Can you take off my 2 healthy breasts?" They'll do that surgery.
Yeah, come right in.
Or they'll cut off a healthy penis.
Oh, don't even say that.
They will, and that's okay. So the whole thing is messed up, and that's what basically she's talking about. And she's the president of the American College of Pediatricians. Read her articles; they're very, very well
finally
stated.
someone with a brain.
But she has been stating this. She says this is child abuse. A young girl as young as 16 can, even without parental permission, can have her breasts removed if she's been taking testosterone for a year.
You know what? Those doctors that do that, they should be executed.
Of course they should. So I'm just telling you, read her articles. Michelle Cretella, very good articles. And then we have another person, Betsy DeVos, who is the 11th and current U.S. State Secretary of Education.
Right. Nobody likes her.
She actually comes from Michigan. Did you know that?
Everybody does.
Yeah. Anyway, this was a very interesting article to me because where they're going with this is they're trying to close down private education, and they want to have this one party line where they teach children everything. But what the storyline is, and this is also lengthy, I just want to give you the highlights, read the article because it's interesting. But they start off with a young woman who supposedly grew up having in Christian schools and being taught by the Bible and so on and so forth, and saying that these very conservative schools are ruining the children because now they can't function when they come out into quote-unquote mainstream because they have not been taught things like gender fluidity and, blah, blah. So remember what I told you to watch for buzzwords. So when this girl, who supposedly was raised in this Christian education system, came out at 17, she felt like she was an alien landing on planet Earth for the first time. That's very telling right there. Mm-hmm. And then it says how she tried everything that she wasn't supposed to do, including taking medication for depression because of this horrible education she was raised with. Now, these private schools do get voucher monies. They're called voucher schools. And so therefore, what they're telling you is that you as a taxpayer, you are paying for a lot of these private school education. And in the private schools, therefore, that they teach religion, you are not having division of church and state. So therefore, you should be against these voucher things so that you can have control over what is being taught, or basically, without funding, these schools will shut down. So that your child then can go to public education and have a real education where you're taught about such things as gender fluidity and transgender and all this other stuff. So that's the
fake
point.
Education.
Yes, and now this was very interesting because it said that Huffington Post, now this is a news service.
They've become crap.
I know, but it says they set out to create a database of every private school in the country that receives taxpayer funding. It's like, why would Huffington Post do that? And then they tracked their religious affiliations. They looked at all the Christian textbooks, and they searched them, and their conclusion was that they were being taught fake history, like climate change. They were being told in these private schools that climate change was a hoax, where if you send your children to public school, real school, you'll be told that climate change is real. So anyway, it was very interesting, but they mainly focused on evangelical schools, not Catholic schools, because Catholicism has been around for a long time, and supposedly there have been studies done on that, and the private Christian schools say bad things about the Catholics. So therefore, the private Christian schools are wrong. And then they use these terms: 75% of voucher schools are religious, usually Christian or Catholic, with 2% identifying as Jewish and 1% identifying as Muslim. I was like, really? Either you're Jewish or you're Muslim. You're not going to say, I identify as a Jew or identify as a Muslim. I'm sorry, you are or you're not. So, anyway, it goes on to say about this, how we're combining real estate and religion, and about how traumatized all these people are who've come out of private education. And anyway, it goes on and on and on, but it was just very interesting to me, because to me it's trying to pull people out of any kind of private school education, unless you're like, say, of the elite, where you can afford $50,000 a year per child. So, and all this was done by the Huffington Post, how they did analysis of the data, on and on and on. And of course, they say that all the Christian textbooks were distorting history because they were teaching, things that were not right. Yes. Anyway, it's a very interesting article. I suggest you read that one as well. And then on to Pope Francis.
Oh, my favorite.
Now remember how he's changing everything. Changing religion, preparing things.
He wants to change the Lord's Prayer.
Exactly. So it goes on about how he says the original translations are not correct, which is true.
Right.
And then he goes on to talk about how the translations came from ancient Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. Now, isn't it ancient Greek that's illegal for people to learn now?
Yes, and in fact, I've confirmed that with Greeks in Greece.
Yeah, and in Greece, can they learn it? Ancient Greek?
She said, the people that I've spoken to said, they learn Greek, they could go back like to the 1800s and so, but they don't really know what is ancient Greek, so they just go like to 1800s Greek and call it ancient Greek, but it really isn't.
And this one, supposedly, the translations began in 4th century, so obviously a lot earlier than what you're saying. So the Catholics will no longer say, do not submit to temptation, but instead do not let us enter into temptation. So
I enter into temptation all the time, and the Lord doesn't have to lead me.
But again, it just doesn't
lead
matter.
Myself.
The imprinting is that we're going back and we're changing history. And so, on one hand, they're saying it's wrong. The other hand, they're saying it's okay. Then they're saying that the private Christian schools are speaking against the Catholics because the Catholics are wonderful, right? So remember, it's the hierarchy. It's not the people. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the hierarchy, which the Catholics have burned and pillaged and raped and done a lot of horrible things.
Basically.
And speaking of aliens, let's not forget the name of the observatory that the Vatican owns.
Lucifer.
El Diablo.
That's the telescope is called Lucifer.
I thought it was called El Diablo.
The El Diablo is the name of, I think, the mountain it's on.
Oh, well, it's all in there. So, anyway, look at that, people. And then Washington State is now,
your country,
considering allowing a third gender option on the state's birth certificate.
Only a third?
The new rule, which would take effect early next year, would allow parents to select an X option rather than male or female. So California was the first state, it says.
Of course it was.
Then did I say California? I meant Oregon. Oregon was the first state, then California. And they're calling these, this is allowing for non-binary birth certificates. So I guess if you go to a private Christian school, they're going to say this is wrong. If you go to a public school, they're going to tell you it's right. And so who are you going to believe, right?
Who are you going to call?
Who are you going to call? Then we have thigh lighting.
Who?
Thigh lighting.
Thigh light? Like put your thighs on fire?
Yeah, thigh lighting. A group of procedures aimed at enhancing your legs. This is the new thing.
I don't need that.
Because every time, they've got you implanting everything else they can all over your body. Now it's your thighs. And it says for a complete leg makeover. I'm not sure if there's one leg or two, but it's $9,000.
Well,
That's
I
a lot.
imagine you would do both.
I don't know. Maybe it's $9,000 per leg. I don't know. And then again, going back to our ghosting thing in printing, there's a woman who claims and this is more New World religion. Woman claims she's had sex with 20 ghosts and prefers them to men.
What a hoe.
And remember, that's what they said. They said, are you considered that?
She's a hoe.
In your...
She's a ghost hoe.
In the paranormal world. And what was interesting to me is because I did talk about sometime back the terminology ghosting, like if you're in a relationship and all of a sudden you quit calling the person or whatever, it's called ghosting, right? So now they're ghosting again. So now they're discussing what being ghosted is like. And so she talks about everything. And she said she felt safe when she felt this pressure on her thighs and breath on her neck. She had sex with the ghost, and you can feel it, and it's better than men. And that's what she claims.
What if it's a male ghost?
Well, it's supposed to be a male ghost,
So,
I guess.
hello.
But this is teaching people to have sex with astral entities.
Okay, she needs to stay away from red wine before she goes to bed.
Okay, listen to this. She wants to get pregnant by one of the ghosts.
A phantom pregnancy,
No,
perhaps?
she said she's done research into phantom pregnancies.
Ah.
But she says there's a possibility that it is a ghost in you, but people don't know how to carry it to full term.
Yeah, because it's not there.
But what is going to happen when they have sex with astral entities?
Or a robot.
There you go. It says singers Bobby Brown and Keisha also said they've had supernatural sex sessions. So I guess that's going to mean that you should have them too.
You know what they've also had?
What? A lot of that. And then they're going to be scromating. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's interesting because Krampus, as we're getting close to Christmas, Krampus is becoming
I forgot
more
about that.
widely talked about here in the West. I guess it's already started in Europe, but they said this even in this article, in case you're wondering if you haven't seen it, it's this horrible ghost astral type, not ghost, but a goat. Big goat horns and like an astral entity type face, and they're all horrible and big.
I've known actually people that look like that.
Anyway, so December 5th or the night of December 6th usually is the feast day of St. Nicholas.
We missed it.
And that's usually also Krampusnacht. And so apparently it was St. Nick was rewarding children with the gifts, and Krampus did the opposite, beating the children with sticks and giving bad things.
That's what I do.
And we've seen things. I haven't seen them this year. Maybe they're not showing it. But when they take St. Nick and this Krampus character into like kindergartens, and then they say, oh, you've been bad, Krampus is going to take up. These kids are kicking and screaming, and parents are pushing their kids. It's
That's
really
not a European thing, isn't it?
It's really sad, and I'm sorry. That's very, very. And I guess I'm not sorry. It's very
German.
sick. It's very sick.
It's a very German
But they're
thing.
trying to spread that culture now, everywhere. And I think it should be gone, not celebrated.
Yes, I agree.
To me, it's a very sick thing to do to your child, and in general. But,
So, before we continue on about anything,
Yeah.
I want to show my new Zazzle shirt.
no, that's
Can
very
we all
cool.
see that, my new Zazzle shirt?
I think there
This
was
was created as a scorpion frequency.
it was a birthday
And
gift.
can you get this?
What is that?
It's me.
Yeah,
These are my peeps that's on that asteroid.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So take a look, peeps, because that's what's going to be when the thing lands. This is a sign on it.
So if you're looking for any holiday gifts for others or yourselves, the Zazzle store, check it out, modernexpansions.com.
Expansions 2017.
Yeah, very cool. So, but we have a lot of things on there. We have mouse pads, we have hats, we have shirts, we have sweatshirts, we have wallets was a very popular item.
What's it?
Yeah, with our archetypes, which you see the archetypes in here. They're on a lot of the products. We have dolphin mugs. We have all kinds of things on the Modern Zazzle store. So take a look because it's pretty exciting, actually.
Zazzle will dazzle you.
Yeah. And so then we're headed off for Nevis in a couple of weeks.
Yes, and I will be doing lectures. There'll be an investiture of the Knights Templars, a brand new order.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will be posted way before that, but December 18th is the election in Nevis, and put good energy for the re-election of Prime Minister Joseph Parry, and he will make all our dreams come true.
And then in January, of course, our class starts, and so we have a list of books that are really helpful for you to get the most, but of course Decoding Your Life on Universal Law is a really great one, as well as my webinars, which are ongoing based on this book, Universal Law. Hyperspace Helper, these are the two basic ones you really need to have read before you come to January. You must take our January class if you're interested in becoming a part of our Oversoul, of our Hyperspace Oversoul Mastermind group, OMG.
And then right after that, I go to New York to do a movie about me.
Yeah. And then February?
In February, I go to Ecuador and do a seminar, and I have coined a new term, which I think maybe I've said, that I will become Ecuadorable.
Yeah, I don't think you've shared that with our audience yet. So
I am Ecuadorable.
yeah.
And then in March is Mexico, which Americans have been warned not to go there. But as you know, I go every place you're warned not to go. So tell me where not to go and I'll be there. Then April, most likely I'll be back in Poland and Germany. They keep saying, come back, come back. Oh, of course they say it in their language, but I have to go back. May.
Oh, we have Polish translations now.
Oh, yes.
Of the colors, those little short clips of videos where we have every color of the chakra system, introduction to it, plus gold and silver in Polish. So thank you very much to our Oversoul Mastermind group member who did that, Adam Zieba.
Yes.
And he also does Polish consultations.
And he comes from my grandmother's town, Rzeszów.
Yeah. So he has very special meaning to us.
Yes. And then in May, we postponed Turkey until May, where Janet and I both will be on live Turkish television.
Just prior to our Italian trip.
Which will be in June.
Which will both be going on. So if you're interested in that, you need to reserve because we will have deadlines posted soon.
And June 15th, Havana, Cuba, new investiture.
Get yourself some books. Get books for gifts. Catch yourself up on our work. A lot of you ask a lot of weird questions on the YouTube channel.
They do.
And a lot of strange comments. So,
seriously.
Really, you need to read especially True World History, Blue Blood, True Blood. These two books will change your life and your views. And don't tell us to do our research. That's what we do, is we do our research, period.
Yes.
We do a lot more than you'll ever know because we don't tell you everything. When you come to our classes, we tell you more. When you join Oversoul Mastermind Group, we tell you more.
And you know, we've had already almost a meter of snow, and it's still snowing right now, as a matter of fact. And you know, last year, remember that video? I went out in the terrible snow and went to the mailbox, and there were no presents for me.
Stuart says, yes.
Yeah, and so I was going to do that again today, but I want to go walking in the snow and then find nothing.
Right. 13 cubed. This is really great if you want to know about mind control and programming. And are you going to tell them about your upcoming venture on mind control and programming?
Oh, thank you for reminding me that.
Because this was a biggie.
Yeah, because February, I think I mentioned it earlier.
The true reality of sexuality.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
I know.
That I'm
flashing.
I'm doing a live television show with Magnus Olson, a director of MindTech, and Alfred Weber, lawyer and judge from Vancouver, Canada, and we are doing Matrix Deactivated live show, amazing guests, and it's going to be quite incredible, and we will be syndicating it all over the world. I'm already in discussion with the syndications of television shows in Russia and Turkey. And speaking of Russia, I just filmed another episode on Orient TV Moscow. But my last episode that I did with Anna Chapman is available, and we've just posted that.
Yeah, and we also want to remind you, we have a special Montauk guest coming in January. Should I say the initials? DC.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Washington does not mean Washington.
And the light wave table.
Oh, yes.
The inventor and creator of that will be here, and you'll be able to use that while you're here as well.
That's right. I'm getting on it every morning.
Yeah, so we have a lot of things going on, and read our site, please. Don't just make the comments. Read our site. Make yourself sound a little bit intelligent. Prove us wrong. Let us know.
No, don't prove me wrong. I'm always right.
No, I want to see that you're intelligent, you actually know what we're about, and you're not just dropping these stupid little comments, because some of you do, and you know what? Those go in the trash. So, if they go in the trash...
Notice that my favorite comment, that thing you saw on the internet where it said, How do I know my baby is mine if my boyfriend cheated on me?
Yeah, that was a girl. Oh,
Yeah.
a female. Yeah.
Was it?
I don't know. Anyway, so like I said, please read our materials and make intelligent comments.
Yeah, please.
Or tell
please.
us how wonderful we are.
That's always good. And presents always welcome.
Yes, so thank you very much for your support. We appreciate you out there, those of you who are supporting us.
And we will see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.